Sounding the alarm after the third consecutive month of record apprehensions at the southern border. The agency says the number of migrants apprehended at the border for the ongoing fiscal year has already surpassed the total for every fiscal year since 2009. This comes as Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham says he will introduce new legislation this week to tighten asylum laws.
We're going to change the underlying broken laws to stop what I think is literally an invasion of people from Central America. I'm going to introduce it Wednesday.
Brian Yennis is live in our New York City newsroom with more. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Alicia. Well, U.S. Customs and Border Protection source tells our Griff Jenkins that the number of apprehensions along our southwest border is now over 504,000 so far in the fiscal year here in 2019. To put this in perspective, that number is already higher than what we've seen in every full year since 2009. We still have 4 months left in this fiscal year. Now, this April saw the highest monthly number of apprehensions in 12 years. There were more than 98,000 immigrants apprehended in April trying to cross the border illegally. That's up 159% compared to April 2018, when 38,000 immigrants were apprehended. Now, the majority of these migrants are from Central America. Earlier today on Sunday Morning's Futures with Maria Bartiromo, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said he would introduce an immigration bill Wednesday that would change our asylum laws and cut illegal immigration by 90%.
If you're from Central America, we can't send unaccompanied minors back to Central America like you do from Mexico and Canada. We're going to change that. You can only hold a minor for 20 days. We're going to go to 100 days. But most importantly, you can no longer apply for asylum at our border. If you're from Central America, you have to apply for asylum at a consulate in your country.
On Saturday, the acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan visited McAllen, Texas on the border. There are currently over 4,300 military troops deployed on our border, including active duty and National Guard. Our Brian Kilmeade on Fox and Friends spoke exclusively with Secretary Shanahan, who said the troops will remain on the border until the Department of Homeland Security gets more resources to handle this surge.
We're going to be here until the borders are secured. We've got to have the backs of the men and women that are down here being overrun.
Earlier this month, Secretary Shanahan acknowledged this border crisis developed more quickly than anyone anticipated, and CBP has been overwhelmed and overstretched. DHS on Friday asked the Pentagon for temporary shelters, Alicia, to house the thousands of detained migrants at the border, where migrant shelters are already at capacity. Alicia?
Brian Yennis here in New York. Thanks, Brian.
Of course.
And for more on this, we're joined by Theresa Cardinal Brown, Director of Immigration and Cross-Border Policy for the Bipartisan Policy Center. Welcome. So what do you think will change or could change in the asylum laws?
Well, I haven't seen what the senator is proposing, but the president has proposed in the past changes to the asylum laws. What I would say is this: the situation at the border is very complicated. Certainly, we are seeing record numbers of people coming, but unlike previous years when we saw these high levels, these aren't people who are trying to avoid apprehension by the Border Patrol. These are people turning themselves in, and they are seeking asylum. And one of the reasons they are able to do that, and one of the reasons that they see that as a way to legally come in the United States, is because our immigration system is so backlogged. It takes those cases about 3 years to get adjudicated. If our asylum system had more capacity, was able to adjudicate these cases faster, we probably wouldn't need to adjust our asylum laws. And I think, honestly, that it's a complicated set of factors that's driving people. Yes, it's conditions in those countries: crime, poverty, threats. It's also criminal smuggling organizations that are encouraging this flow. They are making millions of dollars a week off of these immigrants and encouraging them to come before the laws start cracking down. And finally, we have our backlogged immigration system. I think, though, that if we try to reduce the number of people who are eligible for asylum, try to block asylum access, we may see these people driven further into the hands of the smugglers and may even be in a worse situation at the border than we are now. So I think we need to be very careful when we talk about reducing the ability for people to apply for asylum. I think we should address our asylum system and figure out how we can make it both fair and faster.
You know, we see these pictures we're looking at right now, Theresa, of people risking their lives. What about those who say it is their legal right, that they come to this country? America has been seen as a refuge to be able to protect people fleeing from persecution and religious or political differences and this sort of thing. That's enshrined in the American character.
It is, and I think that's one of the reasons why cutting individuals wouldn't qualify under asylum. If any do, and we are cutting off access to that system for those people, then we are doing a disservice to who we are as a country. We need a system that works. We need an asylum system that is fair but faster than we have now, and that way we can separate those true asylum claims from those who probably don't qualify. But I think reducing the overall access is maybe not the best way to look at this.
You talk about those who don't qualify. Let me show you a full screen. This is from Syracuse University, and it's pretty shocking. It's the number of asylum denials. They're like skyrocketing high. El Salvador, 68.9%, almost 69%. Honduras, 76%. Guatemala, more than 75%. Mexico, 66%. These are denials. Huge number. Does that show the president potentially is correct when he says many of these people are abusing the asylum system? Because if it was, one would think if it were adjudicated properly or appropriately, the numbers of denials would be much less than that.
Well, that's the system doing its job, right? The system, for every, 75% may be denied, but 25% are approved. Those are 25% of those people who actually qualify for asylum and are eligible to stay in the United States. So that's the system doing its job. And so that's what I would say is that if the system does its job correctly, then those who don't qualify, they're denied and can be returned. But we have to have a process that allows it to become faster. The thing that's allowing people and encouraging people to come is the fact that they can come and stay in the United States for up to 3 years until that decision is made. For somebody coming from one of those countries whose situation is dire, that is a lifetime for them. They'll take that chance.
Yeah, the senator has suggested getting rid of some of the loopholes. Here's what Lindsey Graham had to say.
Because word's out on the street in Central America, if you bring a minor child with you to America, we can only hold the minor child for 20 days. We release everybody, including the adults. They never show up for the hearing because it's 3 years from now. You got to apply for asylum where you live or in Mexico, no longer from the United States. And if you're an unaccompanied minor, we're going to send you back to Central America as if you lived in Mexico, which would be a change in our laws. This should stop 90% of the illegal immigration from Central America.
Do you agree with that? I mean, don't the statistics show that the majority of asylum seekers actually do show up for their hearings?
At least those initial hearings, yes, and more are filing those cases. Again, what I would say is I don't think we benefit ourselves or those who are deserving of asylum by shutting down our asylum system. I think we need to find a way to make it faster. Certainly 3 years is too long. Also, when we're talking about unaccompanied children, returning them without some sort of hearing may put them back in worse jeopardy than what they started out. Again, my fear is that by trying to clamp down on the system, all we will do is push these people further in the hand of smugglers. So instead of turning themselves into the Border Patrol so we can find out who they are, check their status, get them into a process, they will try to sneak around us with the help of these smugglers, and we won't know who's coming in the country. That's a further problem I think that we should worry about.
That will certainly be the debate when the senator introduces his bill, expected on Wednesday. Theresa Cardinal Brown of the Bipartisan Policy Center, thank you for joining us on this Sunday, of course. Well, there's been another deadly attack on a house of worship. We'll have the latest on that next.
Ready to break through your allergies? People everywhere are reaching for Allegra, the fastest non-drowsy allergy relief. It starts strong and stays strong for 24 hours. Get back to the moment with Allegra.
Roses are red, hydrangeas are blue. Here's to all moms that haul, crank, move, shape, reach, teach, and do.